Welcome to Mind Body Monday. It is really lovely to see you all here. In today's Mind Body session, we're going to be exploring a topic that I get exposed to in the clinic a lot, and you'll see shortly just why. We're going to be looking at the topic of heartburn, acid reflux, or its more extreme case, GERD, gastroesophageal reflux. And what we're going to be looking at, what it is, what's really underneath it, and why taking anti-acid medications isn't really addressing the underlying root of this pretty insidious condition. And the root cause we're going to explore what that is. And at the end, I'm going to share with you my top 5 tips to help with acid reflux that I use in my practice. These are actually culled from about 25 different top tips, but I thought I'd just give you my top 5 to get started. So I'm actually going to start off a little bit differently with this Mind Body Monday. I'm going to read for you a patient testimonial, which I printed out in front of me from a patient who I saw in the last couple of months. And he writes the following. I came to see Avraham because I was suffering from a nasty case of reflux. I'd been taking medication for years and slowly was having to increase my meds. Avraham put me on a special program and suggested some lifestyle shifts, which I'm still on. And I'm still missing my morning coffee and toasted cheese melts. But, he writes, at least the fire in my chest has stopped completely. It took at least 2 months before I felt a drastic improvement in my reflux. I've been on the program now for 3 months and hope that in a short while I can go back to my cheese melts. He writes here, this wasn't a quick and easy solution for me, as I'd been suffering for many years and had got into some pretty bad lifestyle habits. I decided that it's better to have about 4 to 6 months of inconvenience than lifelong pain and suffering from the fire in my chest and all the possible harm that this can cause and side effects from long-term use of antibiotics. He had obviously been reading around a little bit. He writes, I'm now 100% pain-free and still enjoy an occasional cheese melt without any side effects. So this was a very chronic and complex case, and he was quite honest that he had to do some shifts in his lifestyle program to get the results he's looking for. And the truth is, these results are available to everybody. Yes, even hardcore cases. So don't give up. Every little bit counts. The program is not all or nothing. He does have his cheese melts. He loves them, but he's not off them. But he now knows how to listen to his body and manage himself. So for those of you who are new to Mind Body Monday, my name is Avraham Gundle. I'm the founder and director for the Center for Integrated Medicine. I'm qualified as an osteopath and I practice functional and integrated medicine. And over the last 30 years or so in private practice, I've been privileged to help a lot of people suffering from chronic health issues, be it digestive issues, anxiety, eczema, asthma, autoimmune conditions, etc. And recently, over the last couple of years, more in depth with reflux and other digestive issues. Most people don't know that about 20 to 30% of the American population suffer from reflux. The latest statistic says over 60 million Americans suffer from reflux at least once a month. And that also says about 15 million people have a daily symptom of reflux. This is according to the American College of Gastroenterology. So this is a very common condition. So stomach acid in the right place is a wonderful thing. Stomach acid in the wrong place is really harmful and damaging. In fact, if a person were to take a drop of stomach acid and just put it on outside of the hand or on the skin surface of the body, it will burn and cause a blister because it has a pH of about 1.5 to 3.5, which is pretty acidic and quite corrosive. There's a very interesting misnomer here. The name acid reflux, as well as the symptom, implies that this is an acid problem, i.e. really too much acid, and therefore the world recommends antacids known as proton pump inhibitors or TUMs and things like that to really turn off the stomach acid production. But you're going to learn very quickly that this is actually, in my opinion, and what I've seen in my practice, not the approach at all. In fact, research has shown that, that as a person ages, the stomach acid production decreases, but yet the population suffering from the highest amount of reflux and GERD is the over 60-year population. There was some interesting research from the Journal of American Gastroenterology Society, which found that 30% of people 60 years and up have little or no stomach acid production. And another study found that 40% of postmenopausal women have no basal stomach acid production. Basal stomach acid production is that stomach acid that's produced not in response to food or eating. It's a sort of background acid production. So let's just take stock for a moment. Here's a population suffering from acid reflux, but yet have the lowest production or no production of stomach acid. So why would they want to be treated, or why would they be treated with stomach acid medication that turns off stomach acid supply? They don't have it in the first place. So let's try and dig a little bit deeper, and then we're going to offer some solutions. So just hang in, because it's a drop technical, but when you got this, you'll understand the thinking behind the model and what you can do to really help yourself. So the research, as I said, is suggesting that there's really the wrong treatment. And there are many, many studies supporting the fact that antacids over the long term is actually suppressing stomach acid, and it doesn't treat the problem. It only treats the symptom, and only temporarily, like my patient who found that he started off with 20 milligrams of Losec, which is a proton pump inhibitor, and then over time that went up and up and up until he was still having symptoms, but on a twice daily regime of a higher dose and still not getting any joy. In fact, research from the Mayo Clinic showed that the long-term use of antacids have potentially great side effects, including osteoporosis-related hip fractures, a certain kind of diarrhea resulting from an overabundance of a certain kind of bacteria called Clostridium. And you'll understand shortly why that would be. Low magnesium levels, vitamin B levels that are low, problems with potential kidney issues, and even dementia. So the long-term use of antacids is really not recommended. Generally speaking, they only recommend it for short-term use, 14 days, a month really. But what we're doing here with Mind Body Monday is really empowering you with an understanding of how you can help yourself and really advance your health, not only in digestive issues, but in health in general. In fact, most people that come in with heartburn to my clinic have a bottle of TUMs in their pocket or in their handbag. And TUMs research about TUMs says long-term use causes similar problems to the proton pump inhibitors, which is, hip fractures from osteoporosis, GI infections, and even pneumonia, because stomach acid production is so important for our immune system. It really has two main functions. The first function is acid in our stomach is the first place where viruses, bacteria in our food or inhaled, etc., gets into our stomach, and they pretty much taken care of through that acid, which is highly corrosive. So it keeps our immune system strong. So with long-term use of antacids that are turning off that production, we don't have really that first line of immune defense to support us and keep our immune system strong. Obviously, stomach acid has another key function, which is help to digest food, specifically protein. So what's really going on? That's really what I ask myself and I ask my patients. So the prevailing medical understanding is that GERD, the more advanced form of reflux, and bear with me, there's a drop technical, but when you understand this, all the pieces of the puzzle will come together quite quickly. This is caused by a dysfunction in a valve, in a sphincter, called the LES, the lower esophageal valve or sphincter, which is basically a seal at the bottom of the esophagus where it meets with the stomach. So by way of analogy, when a pipe under your sink is leaking, we all know the solution is not just to turn off the water forever. The solution is to fix the leak. But a solution beyond that is to figure out why the leak was there in the first place. So the prevailing medical understanding is that reflux is a result of this valve dysfunction caused by an increased pressure in what's called intra-abdominal pressure, a raised pressure inside the abdomen that is really putting stress on this sensitive valve. It's causing it to leak, and hence the acid is going places it should not be going. So that's really a little bit of what's called the pathophysiology, the process of what's going on behind this condition. So as a functional medicine practitioner, where I look at the whole body, the mind, the spirit, and understand all aspects of a person's lifestyle and personality and morning routines and stresses, I'm able to, in a way, draw the curtain back and look a little bit deeper and understand what are some of the parameters causing this in each individual patient. In fact, I could be treating two patients with advanced reflux and treat them in two very, very different ways, abiding by the general rules, but the application for each person is different. Because we are all different, we have different biochemical individuality pieces. We respond to life stresses differently. We have different genetic makeups, et cetera, et cetera. So therefore, I wish I could just take the prescription off the shelf and give it to all of my patients with any chronic condition, but it's not so simple because different people respond differently to different things. And what I'd give one patient could actually aggravate them, and it's happened, and I can give that same thing to another patient and it will really turn off their inflammation and really help them heal. And this is why it's so important to work very closely with whoever you're working with, a functional medicine doctor who understands the bigger picture. It's almost like a mechanic who's not only going to diagnose your car problems by listening to the hum of the engine, but he will also lift up the hood and really take a good look and inspect and even get underneath and get a bit greasy, so to speak, to figure out what is going on. So as I mentioned, what's really going on is this increased abdominal pressure, which compromises this valve, the lower esophageal sphincter. And I found in general, after doing a full functional medicine medical case history and going through a person's complete lifestyle and understanding more the intricacies of their daily habits and routines, I found that there's some common things that could be helpful for people in general. And these are the tips I'm going to share with you at the end. But here's some general things that I've also found. And the patient who I opened up with his testimonial was really a good example of someone who was, in a way, living on the edge and living it up and paying the price for it. But he made a decision, he drew a line in the sand and healed himself completely with a little bit of guidance. So what I found is a diet high in processed foods, high in sugar and processed oils like canola oil can definitely contribute to inflammation in the digestive system and low stomach acid. And these are the things that create an environment that causes acid reflux and other issues as well. In addition, when I take a full case history, I have also found that there are underlying food intolerances, chronic low-grade infections. In fact, a patient called me up last week who had for over 18 months pain and inflammation in her jaw and lymph node underneath the jaw. I suggested she go to a dentist and have an x-ray, and she found she just had a grumbling root canal low-grade infection, just wasn't really bothering her. But these interfere with the immune system. They take your immune system's power away from looking at everything else and surveilling and watching that area and keeping that area safe so it doesn't take over an infection in the body. And as a result, it compromises the health. So taking care of low-grade infections. I see often patients come in with toenail fungi or athlete's foot or sorts of things like that, fungal infections in the skin that also are low-grade infections that are like white noise in the background and take one's mind off what really needs to be going on. So all of these things, environmental toxins as well, emotional stresses, poor sleep, etc., all create an increase in intra-abdominal pressure and an imbalance in the stomach acid, and as a result, affects this sphincter and causes the reflux. I mentioned to you another aspect. Bear with me, and we're going to get very practical in a minute. I think this is just an important piece to understand what's behind this, because I think the more empowered the general public is about Western models of thinking and functional integrative health and where they meet and where they don't meet, you will then more empowered to make better decisions in your lifestyle and in your daily choices. Low stomach acid, which is a result of long-term use of these medications, causes another condition, which I mentioned previously, called SIBO, which is basically an intestinal overgrowth in the gut. And this can lead to poor food digestion because of impaired enzyme production. It's a little bit like dominoes. And as a result of this, leads to further inflammation, and then that inflammation leads to the intra-abdominal pressure, and hence puts pressure on this stress on this sphincter. And so there's a chain of causality that's going on. Yeah, and when you understand that, then wherever you choose to make an intervention, then you'll be able to take some pressure off, reverse the situation, and bring some healing. It's not, the more chronic a person is and the more long-term it is, don't give up, really don't give up. I've seen people suffering for many, many years with high doses of antacids and still getting results. In fact, some of my patients, I recommend not to change your medications at all. Keep those medications so you are comfortable and functional through your day, and then make some of the lifestyle changes in the background. And then as you improve, we can slowly play with bringing the medications down or making other tweaks to how we manage the medication. But all the while, in the background, fortifying the system by some of the tips I'm going to share with you shortly. So let me actually get to that right now. Some of these, as I said to you, these are culled from over 25 different tips, but I thought I'd just share my top 5 and then give you an extra one for a bonus, because I really wanted to share more, but it gets a little bit technical. So something I practice, I don't suffer from reflux, but I've read so much research about this particular digestive health tip. It will advance your health and well-being tremendously, even if you don't have reflux. That's why I put it on my number 1. I'm wondering if any of you can guess. Maybe you want to type in the chat if you want to guess what the top, if you were to suffer from reflux, why don't I just ask you all? I'm looking over to the side because I'm on 2 screens. If I were to ask you, go ahead and type in the chat what you think the most important tip for you is for gastrointestinal reflux support. What would that be for you? Just type in the chat. And as I'm looking at the chat, I see someone's asked, is omeprazole in the UK what you're talking about? Yes, omeprazole is the standard medication for reflux. So go ahead, type in the chat. What do you think is the number 1 thing that you benefit from? If you were to just do this one thing more often, what would that be for you? I'm not going to pick anybody out, but I'm just curious. I'm seeing all you smiling faces and you thinking there. And I'm wondering, perhaps someone can just type in the chat. Yes, someone's written, thank you. Not eating late at night. Well done. You get the jackpot. That is so important. Who else? Who else has a number one tip that will help you? Anybody else? Tina, would you be willing? First, it's lovely, lovely to see you here. It's great seeing you. I know I reached out to you. What's your favorite tip? What, if you could just put one thing into your life, what would help you? Anybody else? Anyone else with reflux or digestive issues? What would your one tip be for a neighbor? You're chatting to a neighbor over the fence and say, listen, oh, you got reflux? Just do this. I found it helpful. I'm just curious. What would that be for you? Go ahead. So as you're thinking about what that tip to your neighbor would be, I'm actually going to share with you my number one. My number one is exactly that. Aim to stop eating at least 4 hours before bedtime. And I always say to my patients, don't worry, if you can't manage 4, go to 3. Can't manage 3, go to 2, go to 1. But the idea here is to have as much space between your last meal and bedtime. There are many, many wonderful reasons to do this. Not only will you get deeper and better quality sleep, because your digestive system is not working overtime, the blood flow is not distracted in another system, rather it's going to help support brain function and regulate and heal the body, etc. But that's really a key one. So the second strategy, or the second tip, is really increase water intake. I saw a patient 2 days ago who said to me, you know, Avraham, in the wintertime, it's cold. I don't want to drink cold water. I have a hard time drinking cold water. And she has about 3 cups of nice hot coffee a day, and yet has some major digestive challenges. So the solution is very easy. I said, this is my personal drinking water bottle. It's 1 liter. I try and get through about 2.5 to 3 of these a day. I simply put filtered water in half and warm to hot filtered water in the other half, and I land up with some warm water, and I sip that through the day. And sometimes I put in some other essences which help support energy and concentration and digestion. But the idea is to have get your proper hydration and to measure it, because the key is what you don't measure, you cannot manage. So really, if you have a hard time with drinking water, put a timer on your clock, put a timer in your app, and just let it remind you a bunch of times through the day. So 2 other people have written in the chat, thank you very much, is sleeping on the left side. There is reason for that. It's a very sound reason. If that helps you, definitely do that. And Tina has written in, thanks Tina, eat more veggies. Can't agree more. That being said, sometimes raw vegetables can be problematic, and sometimes they need to be really well cooked or steamed and maybe blended, but definitely that is coming to really my next tip, which is to increase prebiotic fibers and increase probiotics. So prebiotic fibers are things like ground flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds. In fact, today I had a fresh artichoke heart salad. Fresh meaning fresh from the can, that's what I could get, but it was a high quality product. And artichokes, leeks also are very good and very high in these prebiotic fibers. A little bit of salad dressing appropriately, some olive oil on that is absolutely delicious. So the prebiotic fibers is very important. It provides the substrate, the base for the friendly bacteria to grow on. And when low stomach acid is there, then there's potential hostile bacteria that can overtake, and not a good thing. So the prebiotic fibers help friendly bacteria grow. And therefore, you'd want to take a probiotic, either in a tablet or capsule. My favorite is cultured veg. I personally make about 5 or 10 kilograms a month of sauerkraut, which one of my kids happens to love, and the others don't. Or you can just make cultured vegetables like cucumbers or carrots, etc. These cultured vegetables are a wonderful, rich form of probiotics. My fourth tip, no one yet has guessed it in the chat, is really eating mindfully and chewing your food thoroughly. This is so important. The patient I was referring to you yesterday, is eating constantly on the run, come into the kitchen, open the fridge, grab something quick, go to the carpool, pick up the kid. It's constantly on the move. There's no way the digestive system will be able to handle that. It's a little bit like, the digestive system is a little bit like an orchestra, call it like a 50-piece orchestra. Imagine all these musicians on the run with their various instruments trying to make harmony. It's going to be a cacophony. So eating mindfully is so important. Last week's Mind Body Monday, I spent a little bit of time talking about the research about distracted eating. So you can check out the replay there. So eating mindfully, enjoying your food, sit down, chew your food, and that way you'll be able to get all the benefits of good digestion, less pressure in the gut, and towards solving your problem. The last tip for today's Mind Body Monday, I say that, but I've got a bonus up my sleeve for you, is consider adding a digestive enzyme or a HCl, hydrochloric acid supplement. Now, this is counterintuitive to the medical model because people are thinking, acid, why would you want to, the acid reflux, there's too much acid. Actually, no, research says there's possibly too little acid. So therefore, you'd want to possibly, and this is why you want to work with a healthcare practitioner, possibly add additional acid in there. Okay, so those are the 5 quick tips. Let me look at the chat. Someone's asking me about vegetables, should be cooked, uncooked, how much water did you say, herbal teas, okay. This is a classical question about should veggies be cooked or uncooked. And the truth is it really depends on each individual and their unique digestive needs. Some people do really well with raw veg. Some people really do poorly. You've got to listen to yourself. You've got to experiment, but work with a healthcare practitioner who understands this. It's time to really look under the hood with you and really understand your unique situation and guide you best. So before I end, I'm going to just share my bonus tip. I couldn't hold back. I have a list of 25 and I just know their help and I still want you to get the help you need. This health tip, if all you do is this one, it could really make a difference. That's assuming all the other functional and integrated medical aspects have been checked out, is proper food combining. Eating protein and carbs at the same meal could, for some people, be a gastric source of gastric disturbance because protein requires more of an acid digestion, while carbs require relatively more alkaline digestion, and therefore there's a competing for enzymes in the body. There's an incomplete digestion. So if you just separate the two, and in my upcoming gut program, I go into a lot more detail about, firstly, all the other 25, but secondly, the nuances with each tip that need to be applied to each specific person in their unique situation. So before we end, I always like to end Mind Body Monday with a weekly challenge. So if you're keeping up with my challenges, you're probably doing really well. So if you suffer from reflux on any level, if it's once a day, once a week, once a month, listen to your body, apply some of my 5 tips, or maybe the 6th one as well as the bonus. And let me know how you do. Send us an email. If you're watching the replays on YouTube, please write in the comments. This way I can reply and respond to you. I just want to say thank you to each one of you once again for making Mind Body Monday possible, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. So I look forward to seeing you next week. And just remember that Mind Body Monday is really all about understanding that self-care is the heart of healthcare. And all you need to do is just take one step forward to enhance your health and well-being. Hope to see you next week. Take care. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day. Have a good evening. And I hope to see you next week. Bye.